Hi guys, my name is Paul Kretz, and recently I've been asked what Canon high ISO noise reduction does. Well, it does what it's called, it reduces the noise, but what are the quirks and what's special about it? It's the built-in feature that actually exists for very long time, from I don't know, maybe 2000s, and it's been in from top grade professional cameras like 1D series down to the bottom to the beginner level cameras. It's all there for many years, and Canon actually claim themselves that the higher the ISO, the more effect this feature has, and we'll see about that in a second. But first I want to warn you that it actually does not affect RAW files. I've shot today's tests in RAW plus JPEGs format, so both formats simultaneously, and I've just checked these RAW files in my Lightroom, and with the same settings at the same ISO, all RAW files look absolutely the same. This feature does not affect RAW files at all. So if you shoot RAW, just use your Lightroom, Photoshop, or any other editor of your choice if you want to deal with the noise. But if you need fast JPEGs and reduce noise, you're welcome. This feature actually works, and it really affects JPEGs. So let's take a look how. Well, first let's find this function in the menu. So press the menu button on the body of your camera. In my case it is 6D Mark II, and when I got to this first menu options, the shoot menu, the red menu, I need to proceed to page number 3, and here it is. In your camera it may be on some other page, but it's going to be somewhere around that. High ISO speed noise reduction. So I enter this position and I see we can turn it off and have 1, 2 and 3 levels of noise reduction, but we have another option here which is grayed out. And why is that? Let's see. I'm shooting RAW or RAW plus JPEGs, and in this case this is actually unavailable, prohibited. So now let's press the info button and see. This function reduces image noise, surprisingly, especially effective at high ISO speeds. Alright, then under this white dot, this is the fourth option here, which is multi-shot noise reduction. This combines 4 consecutive shots to create one low noise image, but it is switched to standard when any of the following functions is set: servo, AF during live view shooting, or RAW plus JPEGs. So what does this mean? Well, by the way, this is the standard, the second level, the middle level. This means that if you want the fourth option, you need to turn off the RAW shooting, leave just the JPEGs, and now it is actually available. So there it is. I'll show you all of these options, the examples for all these positions later, but now I want to point out some other interesting feature, which is if you do the opposite, so leave just RAW and not JPEGs. As I've told you, well, this function only works with the JPEGs, but if you shoot RAW only, then it is still available. And how is that? It's actually because the RAW files are really stored alongside with the JPEGs internally in the camera, because it shows it to you like a preview. So the camera doesn't show you RAW files even if you shoot RAW only. It actually shows you the JPEG. It's just that it doesn't store it on the camera card when you download it from the card. So it's deeper than I wanted, but let's go live view and see. That's what is in front of me, one of my cats, and let me take a picture of it. So here's the picture, and you see it's RAW only. But if I want to go to the quick menu and develop the RAW file right inside of the camera, then you see here the noise reduction is actually available. And so you can see without noise reduction, let's zoom it in all the way, 100%, you see the noise around the cat's face. And then, just for the example, let's put it to the level number 3 of noise reduction. You see how much smoother it turns. You can actually see it live right on the screen, with noise reduction and without. I'm putting the strongest one. Of course you can do it gradually, but that's just for example. And then you can set it and actually save it as the JPEG of your choice, like with this button. So it actually works if you want to process the picture, even if you're shooting raw only. So this is how this function actually works. Now let's take a look at the real examples. Now here we have the real examples, and as I've told you, these are the raw files. Now makes no difference to us today. And here's the sets of 5 pictures at the same ISO, and I have 3 sets of 5 pictures here. So let's start with the first one. Let's look at the 4 consecutive pictures, and first of all let's look at the settings. This is ISO 2000 and f4 with this lens, 28mm 1.8, and I shot it at f4 for at least the central part to be the sharpest. So it's really a sharp image, and we should be able to see all the noise if that appears, and the corresponding shutter speed. And the ISO 2000 for full frame camera, which this is 6D Mark II, is not such a high of an ISO. And so as you see, the first picture here is without noise reduction at all. And here we have the slight noise reduction, the middle, and the strong noise reduction. And we'll look at it closer. Let's look at 1:1 and first see the noise itself. So 2000 ISO is really quite okay for full frame camera, not so much noise. You see the picture itself is really decent, absolutely nice picture, but still there is some noise here. Let's see, and you definitely see that it's smoother here and here and here. It's smoother and smoother. So the noise reduction actually works. Yeah, the actual noise is less and less with each option. But what about the details? Let's see 1:1. This is without noise reduction. Well, not so much noise at the first place, as I've told you, at ISO 2000. But still, this is a little bit smoother, and these all are smoother than the previous ones, but we can clearly see that these lines here on this circle inside of the lens start to disappear here, start to get smudged. So the very finest details actually disappear with the noise reduction, and that is compromise that you cannot avoid. And especially you see here the texture of the material on this camera. By the way, this is a Soviet camera from my childhood actually. My parents had it, and my older sister learned photography with this camera, I believe, but still. Here's the texture of the material, you see here and here. And what's going on when you apply noise reduction? It starts to disappear because, you know, the algorithm actually takes it as a noise. You see, it's smoother and smoother. So the finest details clearly disappear along with the noise. But as I've told you, ISO 2000, not such big of a deal. But we have the 5th option, which is the multi-shot noise reduction. First of all, let me show you. This is the multi-shot, and this is the level 3 of ordinary noise reduction. What you see the distortion. And so we clearly see that the multi-shot does not compensate for the distortion, because this JPEG, simple JPEG, it definitely applies all the corrections of for the lens, the native lens on the native body. It applies the native corrections, but with the multi-shot, just be aware that the corrections are not applied. At least, yeah, the distortion, I believe the others too, like the color fringing and diffraction and whatever. And vignetting, we don't see much vignetting here because it's already f4, but I'm pretty much sure with the multi-shot noise reduction it does not apply any corrections, you see, because here these are applied, with the multi-shot not. But what about the quality? Let's take the without noise reduction, the multi-shot, and say the 1st degree of noise reduction. Let's take a look at the 3 pictures in the center. They all look quite decent at ISO 2000, but still without noise reduction it retains the most details. And here on the texture of the camera body, it reduces as well. The texture is reduced along with the noise. So even with the multi-shot, yes, it is the cleanest, you see, with the slight noise reduction and with the shot noise reduction. Of course, it's the cleanest, really. So let's take a look at the pure noise. Yeah, it's the cleanest of all of them, but still it still gets rid of some of the finest details here on this circle and, you know, in the texture department. So, but all right, it's not the harsh test. Much stronger noise must be here, which is, let's take 4 shots as well, which is the same but at ISO 6400, which on some cameras can really start to give enough noise to be noticeable, even at a full frame, which this is. You see, at 6400 we clearly see much noise. And again, slight noise reduction, stronger, middle, and the strongest. Yeah, they get rid of the noise, but what about the details? You see, with this slight noise reduction, it's not so much. Details are smudged, but with 3 and 4, less and less details are visible, and especially again at the texture department. But still, all of them are usable, but the very finest details actually disappear. You see here, clearly see here, these like what ribbons or what it is, and clearly much softer and smoother here, but it's still usable. I probably should have tested it with ISOs over 10,000, and I'll show you some of that later. But for this, for now, for this example, let's take without noise reduction, the multi-shot, and the strong level of simple noise reduction. Now we see without noise reduction, definitely see noise right away, but see also the details and texture. And here with the 3rd degree and with the multi-shot, we clearly see pretty much the same. It may be a little bit softer and smoother here with the multi-shot, maybe a little bit more reduction than here, and you know, clearly noise here. But yeah, the 3rd degree and the multi-shot, yes, the multi-shot is the cleanest of all, but it steals pretty much the same amount of details from, you know, from where they are. So anyway, I would kind of like suggested that let's take a look without noise reduction and the slight noise reduction. So I believe the 1st degree, the 1st level, clearly retains most of the details. It smudges it a little bit over here, but all in all it's much cleaner picture and retains most of the details, unlike the 2nd, 3rd degree and the multi-shot. These are all with the noise reduction, and yeah, they clearly steal the finest details. Although again, the multi-shot is the cleanest in the noise department. But now, the real harsh test, the 4 consecutive pictures, and this is the top native ISO of my camera. So this is actually the real test. 40,000 ISO. Yeah, this is a really noisy picture. Let me show it to you full screen. So this is the picture. First of all, I'm really impressed how nice it looks considering it's 40,000 ISO. 40,000, you see? Whoa, unbelievably. Yes, a lot of noise. And we clearly see the color noise starts to appear here. The violet, the green, the blue. It is really noisy, yes, but it is still clean considering it is 40,000. Right. And now let's compare the 4 pictures without noise reduction first. And here we see the real noise reduction. Let's take a look. Let's take a look at the noise first. We see much softer with every other option, but the first one actually mostly retains some of the details but gets rid of the color noise. You see, very good about the green and violet pieces of noise. It saves up some monochrome noise, so which is black and white, and it smooths the picture out. So yeah, the first one, considering it's really noise reduction, it's quite nice. But when we see at the 3rd and 4th picture, they really start to spoil up the picture, and you see these letters are smudged, and especially the area around them has this weird pattern. You see, something's wrong around these letters. And here again, some weird structures here. Really, it's the destroyed image. So I would say, yeah, without noise reduction, it's ugly, but it's 40,000. But with the first degree of noise reduction, it's quite nicely saved, considering the considerable noise reduction and considerable amount of details saved. So, but the third and fourth, not so much, not so well. Yeah, less noise, but so much less details. You see, clearly this is good, this is better, and these two I wouldn't use. But in a full scale, they all look pretty good. And what about the multi-shot? Let's compare the best ones, which is without noise reduction, the first level, and the multi-shot. This is the real playground. And here we clearly see that this is the cleanest of all, and the letters are saved much more than with the second, middle, and the strong regular noise reduction. So again, the multi-shot really works, and probably it's the best option here, because it significantly reduces noise. Almost all the noise is gone, comparing to no noise reduction and the slight noise reduction. But in order to save more details, of course, this middle section is better, but it's up to you. You see, it really works, and the multi-shot works, but you realize that for multi-shot you really need fast shutter speeds not to get shaky, or you need a tripod, or you need a lot of light to get the fast shutter speeds. Because if you shoot 4 consecutive shots with long shutter speed, you will definitely have a smudgy and shaky footage, and even when they are combined, it's gonna be a mess. So multi-shot works best, but it requires some definite conditions. And I would say that the first degree is actually the best one, and that's actually what I personally use most of the times. It's always on. The first degree is always on in my pictures, in my cameras, because it significantly reduces noise, but as well retains most of the details. And considering that I mostly shoot JPEGs plus RAWs, I can use RAW if I'm not satisfied with this first degree of noise reduction. So, but if I only need JPEGs, that's just fine. But let's get to the tougher playground, which is the cropped sensor cameras. I especially did a separate test, because with the smaller sensor, the APS-C sensor here of the Canon 200D, which is also called SL2, it's going to be much harder in the noise department. And let's see, that was the controlled test, and this is just out of the window, so it can change a little bit, but still. This is shot at f8 with the kit lens 18-55 at 19 millimeters ISO. You see the parameters here. So this is ISO 1600, which is quite high already for the crop sensor camera, but still it is rather clean. It's usable, but still it has some noise. And this is the first level of noise reduction. Almost no difference, but these two give a softer look, but also steal some details, but it's not so much. It really loses a little bit of visible contrast and details, but the first two look almost identical. And let's look at the windows here. Not so much difference at ISO 1600. So let's go a little bit more brutal. But of course we can compare no noise reduction with the multi-shot noise reduction in Canon 200D. Not so much, yes. But, oh no, you see, this clearly works, and the multi-shot works the best here. It really gets rid of the noise, but retains much of the details. But this is 4 consecutive shots, so I really use tripod here, which is not always, of course, available when you're in the dark or in the other conditions. So yeah, multi-shot works here, retains most of the details, and gets rid of noise very, very good. Really, it works. But now, it's tougher playground with the ISO of, let me see, 6400, and this is where the full frame already shows some noise, but for crop sensor camera, this is really, really dark, and this is really, really noisy. And you see, again, the first degree of the first level of noise reduction gets rid of the You see, we have a lot of color noise here. The violet, the green, purple, magenta, call it whatever. And the first level actually gets rid mostly of the color noise, and the monochromatic noise doesn't look so ugly. So again, the middle and strong noise reduction just kills most of the details. Let's see, especially here in the windows. Yeah, it's ugly, it's all soft and smudgy. I wouldn't use that. But the first level actually gets rid of the color noise and retains most of the details. So I would say the first option, the slide option, is quite fine. So now let's compare no noise reduction, the slight noise reduction, and the multi-shot noise reduction. Will it be any better? Yeah, the multi-shot clearly kills all the noise, well, almost all the noise, but also steals a little bit of details. So the details are still more prominent on the slight noise reduction. So I would consider this to be the best, because it gives more detailed picture, especially it's seen here. Yes, it is cleaner, but it is smudgier and softer. So the first one is the picture of my choice. And again, if you see it full scale, you'll hardly see much difference. But still, the first degree of noise reduction is my choice, and the multi-shot definitely works, just killing slight portion of the details. Look here. This is a mess. This is much better. This is much cleaner, but much softer. And now the worst test of all is the highest native ISO for this camera. I believe this is 25,600. This is really, you know, a celebration of noise. So much color noise. You see magenta, purple, green, blue, whatever. And again, the first level of noise reduction mostly gets rid of the color noise reduction, which is good. It saves everything else, but just gets rid of color noise reduction. And you see the second and third options of noise reduction are unusable because they are too soft. They smudge too much details. So again, this level is my choice. And again, in the windows, the same story. No color noise, and these are smudged, unusable, but this is unusable because of the color noise. Again, so the very slight noise reduction is always the best. And now the final. No noise reduction, the first degree, and the multi-shot. This is really, really interesting, because this is a really noisy picture. And see, yeah, it's the cleanest of all, of course. And the details are mostly here. So the very high ISOs, you see, I would maybe even rather prefer the multi-shot, because it's cleaner and it saves up a lot of details. What about the windows here? Nah, not so much. Really, it's smudged and soft. This is much, much sharper and less noise than the original picture, especially in color noise department. But yeah, make up your mind. You see what's going on with the noise and what's going on with the details. So it's always a compromise. There is no way to shoot absolutely clean picture in difficult conditions except for using proper light. And proper light means the widest aperture, the lowest ISO, and the maybe longest shutter speed, and more outer light, the real light here. So the ISO is actually not the light, it's like a post amplification of the signal, and the real light is the available light of the scene that you shoot, your aperture and your shutter speed. So there's no way to get a clean picture with all the details using noise reduction. It's always a compromise, and it's your choice how much details to smudge and how much noise to throw away. So the conclusion is easy. This feature actually works for JPEGs, and it does what it does. And the first level of noise reduction is actually quite usable and may be useful. And of course, this continuous shooting, this kind of noise reduction bracketing, actually is the best option. But first, be aware that it actually does not apply distortion correction. So be careful with your final look of your pictures. And second, of course, you need a tripod, or you need shorter, shutter speeds. Just if your conditions allow that, go for this continuous noise reduction. But in most cases, the level 1 of this noise reduction feature for JPEGs works just fine. So just make up your mind and leave comments down below if you use this feature and how successfully. Just let me know about it. And in the meantime, just subscribe to the channel and I'll see you in the next videos. Or maybe not. It's up to you.